Russia, the communist. Used to worry about China, the communist. And now, I guess we have to worry about the South Americans, where in Cuba, we have Muslim terrorists getting ready. And in Venezuela, Iran is building a base. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. But, so now that we know the enemies that we have in South America, we're going to know about the enemies that we have within. And Trevor Loudon will provide that information. Trevor is a well-recognized freedom-loving activist, a political researcher from New Zealand. He travels the U.S. at least once or twice every year, bringing to America the information of his political and national security research to our leaders and patriots. He believes that America should fall, so will every Western nation, he believes that if America should fall, so will every Western nation, including his beloved New Zealand. Trevor will be talking about the enemies within. Trevor. And we'll have a question and answer after the speech.
Thank you, Rolando. It's great to be here. Thanks for organising this. I was with Rolando down in Miami recently, talking to a great group of Cuban Americans, and you just love the passion. You know, these are people who have lost one country, and they're damn well not going to lose another one. Now, so, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you understand a real Southern accent? Look, Reagan said you should always start with a funny story, and after Alex's speech, I can understand why. Because I've got to say, I was very pleased to meet Alex today. I've admired his work for some time. He's one of the few journalists out there today who really, really thoroughly investigates the communist movement. His work that you see in WND and in the New American is just top-notch, and I refer to it often. We sort of, you know, help each other out a little bit from time to time. But I was in Los Angeles a while back, and I like street food, so I went up to a street vendor, and I can't remember what it was. I paid the money, and the guy said to me, "Wow, you've got an accent. Where are you from?" I said, "Well, I'm from New Zealand." He said, "Where's that?" And I said, "Well, it's down by Australia." He said, "Oh, where Arnold Schwarzenegger comes from." I think he'd done Common Core geography. So look, everybody always says to me, what I've been doing is, for the last 3 years, I've been touring your country, mainly to Tea Party groups, conservative groups, talking about the dangers of communism in your country. I was the guy who first exposed the connections between Frank Marshall Davis, the Hawaiian communist, and Mr. Obama, and also exposed Van Jones, the communist green job czar who Glenn Beck got kicked out of the White House. So I've been doing this for quite a while. Your government gives me 90-day visas to visit your country. But I'm very tempted to stay for 91 days because apparently I'll get a free cell phone and healthcare and a whole lot of other things as well. What a great country. So everybody says, why do you care about the United States? And I say there are two basic reasons. The first is gratitude. My country was saved in World War II from invasion by the Japanese, by the huge sacrifice of your fathers and grandfathers and uncles at the battles of Guadalcanal and the Coral Sea and Midway. That huge sacrifice saved us, folks, and that is a very strong memory in my country today. The second reason is related but it's a little more selfish. Ronald Reagan had it right. This is the last best hope for mankind. If freedom should fail in the United States, if you lose your constitution, your liberty, your economic dynamism, and your military superiority, all of which are in grave danger, the bad guys of this planet, I'm talking Russia, China, Iran, Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, North Korea, Iran and their Islamic allies, and they are all allies, they will carve up this planet amongst themselves. Now we see this happening now, folks. You look at the world today. All of your allies around the world right now, from Germany, Israel, Britain, Canada, Australia, they're all freaking out, folks, because they see that your president loves the bad guys a lot more than he loves them. This is causing huge instability, people. You know, Japan is now rearming itself, which does not please us in Australia and New Zealand. We understand that they have to protect themselves from North Korea and China, because they can't rely on you guys to do it anymore. And all your allies are just freaking out, you know. They saw what your president did to Poland and Czechoslovakia. One of his first acts of office was to cancel a missile shield that was going to protect them from the Russians. Then he abandoned Georgia to the Russians. And now they're looking at the Ukraine, folks. The Ukraine has a treaty signed under Bill Clinton in your Senate to protect them from Russian military aggression. They gave up their nuclear arsenal in exchange for an American promise of protection. And now that they need it, folks, where is it? So far, Obama has given them a few $100 million of non-lethal aid. He gave $2 billion to India recently for smart cities. A few $100 million of non-lethal aid and John Kerry. Who is John Kerry, folks? He's basically Jane Fonda with less testosterone. So the Russians are supposed to be terrified of this. There also have been some sanctions, yes. I saw a rally in Moscow the other day. A woman held up a sign that really showed what they think of your sanctions. The sign said, "Your porn is harder than your sanctions." They're terrified, right? You've got to realise that Mr. Obama was mentored by pro-Soviet Marxists his entire life. Frank Marshall Davis in Hawaii, almost certainly a Soviet agent, Communist Party member. Alice Palmer in Chicago, the woman who got him his first job in politics, definitely a Soviet agent. Their agenda was always to destroy the United States military, because they knew if they could take out your military, their friends in Russia and China would rule this planet. Obama, since he's come to office, has cancelled weapon systems. He's cutting down your Navy to pre-World War II levels. He's gutting the Army. He's driving out thousands of good officers with the gay policies, women in combat, rock bottom morale. He wants to cut your nuclear arsenal to 265 nukes, folks. The Russians alone have more than 8,500 that we know about. 265 nukes and then down to zero, because peace is breaking out all over, people. Would the chaos, and this is the one I want to point a finger here a little bit. You had 20 million Christians who weren't even registered to vote in the last election in this country. They complain about the persecution of Christians in the Middle East, the slaughter of Christians in the Middle East. Wouldn't that be happening today if you had a Reagan in the White House? They had the power to stop that, folks. Just like the Christians in Germany had the power to stop Hitler, but didn't do it. They need to vote in the next election, people, because we're only going to save this planet if we have another Reagan, folks. Because all around the world, the bad guys are getting stronger and stronger. Putin won't stop with the Ukraine. He'll take out the Baltic states, Eastern Europe and Western Europe. Iran will dominate the Middle East. China will dominate the Far East, Africa and Latin America, and you will be surrounded. If America falls, folks, every Western country will fall. The Chinese are already in Fiji, they're already in Tonga, just near my country. They're buying up politicians in my country, buying up land. If you guys go down, folks, there ain't nowhere to run. Because if there was, I would be there already. I think the most significant thing your president said in his entire first term of office, when he was caught off mic in South Korea with then Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, thought no one was listening. Yes, Mr. Medvedev, when I get re-elected, I'll have more flexibility to deal with you. Yes, said Medvedev, I understand. I will pass your message on to Vladimir. We are with you. What more of a warning do you need, guys? How much more blatant does it need to get? Now my books, I've got both of my books up there. The first one is Barack Obama and the Enemies Within. Nearly 700 pages on Obama's Marxist and communist ties. But I'll tell you straight, people, that's a very heavy book. And I got really, really sick of lugging it around the country. I can tell you. And I vowed and declared that my next book would be smaller and lighter. And this one is The Enemies Within, Communists, Socialists and Progressives in the US Congress. And guess what, people? It's bigger. Because those commies just kept on coming, folks. And I couldn't leave out Corinne Brown, could I? Or Alan Grayson. And you got a few here. Mr. Alvin, what's your mayor here? Alvin Brown. He's got a very top staffer, a man called Tony Hill. Long time history with the Communist Party. You should have a look at him. But the book is really about the two big secrets of modern communism. The first secret, I think they borrowed from the devil. Because we all know that the cleverest thing the devil ever did was to convince people he doesn't exist. Made a lot of progress that way. So what have the communists been telling you in the last 20 years, folks? Pretty much the same thing, right? Well, you can trust them about as much as you can trust their mentor, folks. Now, the second big secret of modern communism, it's hardly ever been discussed in the thousands of books on the subject. It is the ability of a tiny Marxist-Leninist party, maybe only a few hundred comrades strong. It is their ability to influence and even control the legislative process in their country. In other words, to write the laws. So what I'm saying is, less than 20,000 card-carrying communists in your country are right now writing the laws that rule the lives of more than 300 million Americans. Right now, folks. Now, the mechanism they use, the key mechanism is control of the labour unions. Now, you may say, well, look, unions aren't what they used to be. Right to work state, 11, 12% of the workforce, big deal. You name me one elected Democrat in this country, from county commission to federal level, who does not owe his job to the unions. For money, for manpower, for get out the vote, even for vote fraud, which thankfully is not a problem in this state, right? So the unions get them their jobs, folks. So if you're, say, a Democrat county commissioner, and the unions come to you and say, we want you to promote this measure, and you say, look, this is a conservative district, I don't think the people would like that, and they say to you, damn the people, this is what we want, and if you don't do it, we will put you out next time. What do you think the Democrat's going to do, folks? What he's told, right? So the process is simple. The Marxists set a policy. This is what we want for America. It might be socialisation of student loans, green jobs, cap and trade, card check, normalisation of relations with Cuba, completely communist program. Might be a New START treaty with Russia. It might be Obamacare. They set a policy, they make it union policy, and the unions make it Democrat policy. There's not a policy in today's Democratic Party at federal and most state levels that cannot be traced directly back to the Communist Party USA or Democratic Socialists of America or both. They are running the agenda, folks. So you are very lucky in this country because for a long time your unions were run by hardcore anti-communists like Lane Kirkland and George Meany. But in 1995, folks, everything changed. That was the year that Democratic Socialists of America took over your labour movement,